Hi, Kellyanne. Okay, hopefully David is on his way back. Yes, accept. Here he is. Okay.
What happened
Oh,
there?
no
I mean,
idea.
we're on whatever the Starlink is. We had appalling internet a few months ago where you couldn't send anything or speak to anyone. It was just, I looked like an image from CFAX 1982. Dreadful. So
But
yeah, and
hey, you're back and it works.
yeah, let's fingers crossed. I'm
So
sitting here panicking.
no, you're absolutely fine. You're absolutely fine. Okay, take us back. Tell us a story. Who are you, and how did you end up to get in a position where you're writing 5 books a year? That's what I would like to know, please.
Me too. It's a mystery. I don't mind it. So all the way back, how far back do we go?
Okay, we don't need to go to childhood.
No, good.
Unless that's particularly informative.
No, I mean, I've wanted to be an author all my life, I think.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I know really, I was always reading and writing, and I loved it. But it's not something you can go to a careers advisor for. You can't go at school and go, I would like to be an author, because they go, really?
Yeah.
And then guide you off to do something else. So I've done various things. I've worked as an outdoor pursuits instructor. I'm a qualified primary school teacher. I've worked in publishing for years. I just always wrote. So I wrote and wrote and wrote, and I think you kind of make your own luck. So by writing, I hung out with writers.
Mm-hmm.
I hung out with other writers. Some writers were published. I, met those, and so on and so forth. And I always worked on what I was doing. I always wrote. In the evenings, on the bus, at school, on the train. It's just something I've always done. So it's always been a hobby that I've loved, and I've always tried to learn and improve what I've done. And then I ended up getting a contract for writing some children's books.
See, that's a very good point. I was going to say, has it always been crime thriller?
No.
Evidently not, if you're writing for the tiny ones.
Well, actually, on that, this is a weird one. My first book was published when I was 18.
What?
Yeah. However, it really wasn't crime. Now, my dad's a Methodist minister, so I've grown up in the church.
Mm-hmm.
And I took a year out, and between A-levels and going to university. And I met up with a bunch of people who were doing this year out thing that I was doing. And part of that was to do like a service in a church, and they were doing dramas and playing guitars, and I wasn't interested in any of that. So I'd written a few poems, so I read them out, and there was a girl there who said, "Oh, they're really good. I'll take them to show my dad." So I was like, "Okay, bit weird." So off you go. So she went off, and then I was working at an outdoor pursuits centre that year, and I then got a letter from her dad, who happened to be Kevin Mayhew, who owned Kevin Mayhew Publishers. With a contract to publish a book by me.
Amazing.
So I then had to write the book, because obviously it didn't exist. I would send the stuff through to my dad. I would handwrite it, post it to my dad, because obviously this is back in 1991. And he would then type it up and send it through to the publisher. And then they published it in, I think, February 1992. So Amazing. It was just before I turned 19. So yeah, my first book was published when I was 18. I got the bug. I went and did a degree in teaching. Then Kevin Mayhew offered me a job straight out of university to go and be a commissioning editor. So obviously with zero experience, I went and did that. But for me, it was always about learning more about publishing, learning about books, joining the Society of Young Publishers, hanging out in London, going to this, that, and the other, and just getting to know the world, really. So I've always been in publishing. I've always edited or commissioned or worked with authors. So I know what it's like on both sides of the desk. So I know what it's like to be the editor and the publisher.
Which is a huge pro for you, I'm sure, completely understanding all of the arenas.
Yeah, I know sort of all what it's like to be an author and whatnot, and also as the editor deal with it. And then through that, I always wrote and met people, met other authors, and ended up, it was an author called Linda Chapman, who writes things like, My Secret Unicorn, that was it, and various other things. I became very good friends with her. She helped me with some of my writing, sort of get a little markup on stuff and help me look at dialogue. And through that, I then ended up with the same agent as her, which was Philippa Milne-Smith, who now is at the Soho agency. Mm-hmm. And I ended up doing sort of writing partner stuff. So you write under a pseudonym. I wrote under the pseudonym Jake Lansing. Now that's a name. And
how did you come up with that?
What made you choose Jake? The publisher did. So I was like a ghostwriter. So they sent me like a project to do, which was 4 books called Demon Defenders, which I wrote with that was with Puffin.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was the early 2000s. I can't quite remember when. Let me think. No, 2000, 2008, 2009,
Mm-hmm.
maybe later than that. A long time ago. And then from that, I then got approached to submit something to Hodder. They were looking for a horror series because horror was big at the time. I'm a huge horror fan anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So I wrote a pitch and I got a horror trilogy deal with Hodder. So I wrote that. I wrote a standalone called Doom Rider. So I wrote The Dead, Dark and Damned, which is a horror trilogy. I also did some ghostwriting. I did some military stuff, which was good fun, sort of some young adult fiction. And that was all about skydiving. And it was useful because when I heard about that contract, I had to sort of vie for it. I had to try out to see if the person I was
Mm-hmm.
working with liked what I was doing. And it was about skydiving. Well, the weekend that I heard about it, we were actually throwing my dad out of a plane for his 60th. So it was all
Just
great.
happy
So,
coincidence.
yeah, I'd done a tandem skydive myself anyway over in New Zealand. My brothers had done them as well. And we just threw my dad out for his 60th, which was a laugh. So it was really good research. And I got that contract. And then I did lots of creative writing courses for schools up and down the country. And there we are. So that's what I
You
did.
have been everywhere.
Well, I can make it sound amazing. It really isn't. It's no different to anyone else. Everyone's done stuff. And
So
then,
then whiz forward a few years and you started publishing the Harry
yeah,
Grimm series.
yeah.
And
So that,
more importantly, you started self-publishing the Harry Grimm series.
yeah, I mean, I've been traditionally published for a long
Mm-hmm.
time, but the only way to make any living at all was to be a creative writing tutor in schools. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what I spent a lot of my time doing, traveling up and down the country, visiting schools, primary, secondary, sixth form, whatever, and delivering days of creative writing, which was It was great fun, but it was exhausting.
I bet.
Had to do a lot of them to make a living, and to do that, you then lost time and energy to do the writing. So you're
Mm-hmm.
becoming more of the creative writing tutor than the writer. But in the end, it was too much. I'd won an award. I won the Leeds Children's Book Award, which was nice, but that doesn't put food on the table, does it? And
Sure.
in the end, with the life the way it was, I ended up a bit here and there and everywhere, and I ended up being offered a job by that publisher I mentioned at the beginning, who gave me my first book, Kevin Mayhew, over in Suffolk. They offered me a job to run the company.
Wow.
So I did
Full
that.
circle.
Yeah, well, it was stupid, really. I was living in Somerset, running a company in Suffolk, so I was travelling every week and living
Mm-hmm.
at home. And then, obviously, that was quite stressful, not necessarily great for my health,
Mm-hmm.
but it was, it was a job. And then COVID hit, like that.
Yeah.
And,
Like
uh,
a
I,
sucker punch to the
yeah,
entire
I
world.
was then, like so many, put on furlough.
Mm-hmm.
I travelled to Suffolk to do the job anyway, so I had this time. And certain writer friends of mine who, like myself, had been traditionally published, were doing this self-publishing stuff. So I listened to them and had a go with a horror trilogy first called Padre, just because I knew horror
Mm-hmm.
and it was learning the system, which is worth doing if you want to give self-publishing a go. Just have a go. Just
Yeah,
write the best you can and have a go, because it doesn't have to be a bestseller. It will help you learn, and then you can write something
for
else,
sure.
which is kind of what I did. And then my mate Barry Hutchison, who is also known as J.D. Kirk, plus Gordon Alexander Smith, who we all know as Alex Smith, John Mayhew. These are 3 authors that I knew through my children and teen writing and horror. We'd been on stage together doing children's stuff, so we knew each other well. And they were all like, "Do crime, try crime. We're doing crime. It's brilliant. The readers are great. Just there's loads of them, and they love books. They just keep buying them."
Yes, to confirm, the encouragement to do crime was not to go out and commit
Yeah,
lots of felonies. It was very specifically write about
yeah, they had to make that very clear.
it.
Um, so they did actually, and I was like, "Well, I've got no idea about this, but I've always thought that it's the writing that you love more than the thing that you write." I think so. I think that's, for me, what you love has to be. You have to love writing if you want to be a writer. Not
Yes.
horror, therefore I write horror. It's I love writing. I also love horror, so I'll write horror, and I'll try
Mm-hmm.
over here as well. So I read a few crime books, got lots of researchy books in on procedure and all the rest of it, and then went with the whole write what you know thing. So I knew military, so I had a detective who has a military background. I was born in Bristol, lived in Wensleydale, so I from Somerset, set north, and I came up with the title Grim Up North as almost as a joke. I actually texted it to Barry saying, is this ridiculous? Because at the minute it feels like it is, because the phrase is, it's grim up north. You know, everyone knows that. So I thought, have a detective called Harry Grim, and then the first book can be called Grim Up North. I send him up north.
Yeah.
Very sensible, clever. But it also sounded ridiculous. But Barry was like, no, it sounds amazing. Think of, Touch of Frost, for example. There you go, works. So I went with it, and I wrote that, I think, in May 2020, launched it in July 2020, and it sold. It sold a few. I had some reviews, and I thought, well, I've made a bit of money from this. This will maybe be something that I can do in my free time as well as the job, whatever comes after COVID. None of us had any idea, did we, what it would be? So it was like, right, I'll try this. And at the same time, I was looking at other freelance work as well.
Sure.
And whatnot. And I ended up getting a bit of freelance work with Hodder and Hachette to work with The Joy That Is Alid Jones. I ended up working with him on a couple of books as well. But I decided to write another crime one. So I followed up Grim Up North with Best Served Cold. And that went really well. So sold more and did better than the previous one. And obviously the knock-on effect was that book one is still selling. So I thought, well, I'll write another one then.
Yeah,
so
keep
I then wrote Corpse Road, and then in February 2021 I handed my notice in and went full time. So that was quite terrifying.
Terrifying, but also hopefully very freeing.
It was
that moment as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'd been unemployed before. I'd ended up living in a caravan on my parents' lawn. I'd been an out of work writer, earning bugger all. It was a very difficult thing to do. But also, it was like I either make the choice and jump, and I'm always that kind of person anyway. It's like I'm like the what if,
Yeah.
I'd always rather take the risk, which is all that great all the time. But I'm always much more, let's try this, see what happens.
Yeah.
Fails. Oh well, at least we tried. I'd rather be that. So I tried, and I've been full time now since I handed my notice in. So yeah, I'm on book 16, penning now. Dark Harvest. And yeah, it's going well. I think
it's
people seem to
going wildly well. It's going wildly well.
You read it, you seem to like it. Other people have read it, seem to like it. I'm quite happy about that. It's nice, and that's the whole self-publishing thing. I think is that I get to write what I want, and I get to communicate with the readers about it directly. There's no middle person. There's not an agent in between us. There's not a publisher in between us. It's me and the reader. Obviously, I have an editor and a proofreader, and I have check, but I don't have anyone acting as a barrier between me and my readership, so I can respond all the time to my readers. They love the fact that I write I'm doing 4 books a year now, so one comes out every 3 months. I'm trying to get ahead, but I'm constantly chasing the tail. But I want to write that quickly. I have an urge to write. I have a need to write. It's like breathing, really, for me. Writing, it's as important as taking a breath. So a normal publisher wouldn't give me the opportunity to publish 4 or 5 books a year. It would just be terrified of that. They wouldn't have
of course.
too much material. They wouldn't be able to get it out quick enough. But I can do that with KDP. I can get it out into the world. I can do ebook, paperback, and audiobook. It's out there, and the readers love it. And as soon as I launch a book, they will read it within 2 days, and then demand the next one.
And then tap their watch for the next 3 months, going, "Come on, Gatwood, come on."
But honestly, if I wrote a book every month, they'd buy it. The readers, because I've got such a great readership now. It's lovely. I get so many messages when we do a newsletter every 2 weeks. Respond every single time. Every single time we get responses, not just if we put questions in there or whatever, and we put free stories in there, recipes from Yorkshire that have appeared in the books or whatever, all kinds of stuff. But people respond. So it's all stuff I just don't think would happen in the trad world. It's a different way of small business, but it's just brilliant.
Someone in the comments has just said that they are absolutely amazed by that kind of publishing calendar. You know, in traditional publishing, it would take years from acquisition to full publication of a title. And you're right, you've got literally got the power at your fingertips just to go, I'll make it live. I'll do that. Yeah, I'll publish it now. Why not?
Exactly. It's brilliant. I mean, I can't think of a reason why I'd ever go back to traditional way of doing things, because I'm not a control freak by saying that I like being in control, but it's just nice to be in control of what I'm
Yeah,
doing.
of
You
course.
know, it's for me what I'm writing. I haven't got a publisher saying, "Oh, can you think of a new idea?" I know for a fact that that a publisher wouldn't touch what I write now because it's not edgy enough, or it's not different to X, Y, and Z. It's not the next new thing. But what I write is something that readers love. You know, it's like, you know, you watch things like Death in Paradise.
Yeah.
It's comfortable, isn't it? It's, we know what's going to happen, but we also don't know what's going to happen, because that's the point.
Yeah.
But we know it's going to be
Yeah.
that effective with that team doing that investigation that way on that island. The whole thing's ludicrous, but we switch off that believability because we don't care.
Yeah.
We go to that island once a week, meet the team, hear what's going on in their lives, join in with their investigation, see the happy end, and wait until next week. And
Yeah.
that's kind of what I've done. So, you know, I've created this world, there's all these characters, and it's very much like a soap opera. One thing that we speak about with myself, Barry, and Gordy, is that that's kind of what we've done. You know, because we write so many books, it's not about the crime. Obviously, the crimes are important, but what the readers really are interested in is the characters and how they develop their story arcs, which aren't really arcs. They're just this like trajectory of constant development, which is scary because you have to like keep track on it. But you know, the readers are thinking like, well, who's going to get, what are they doing there? You know, who's going out with who? Oh, so and so's got a dog now. What's happening with that? And it's literally that.
Don't. The amount of dogs and also the amount of
Pies are
pies
important.
in Silent Ruin, very surprising, but also very exciting to see popping up.
I mean, that's another thing as well for me. I'm writing about Wensleydale that I know and love, and authors can fictionalize a place if they want. You know, you can, and as a lot of authors do, which is fair enough. But I made the choice to not do that. For me, it was about giving the readers the chance, hopefully through the books, to explore a real place. So, you know, the place names are accurate. I go down very much to, and in points, you must almost to the meter as to where the people are in a location, because I know it that well.
Yeah.
Plus, I've got mates up there, so I can phone and check, text stuff.
Remind me where the dartboard is in that pub again.
Yeah, exactly. It's that kind of thing. So that to me is really important. So people are actually traveling to the Dales because they've read the books. They're coming from the US, from wherever, to go to the Dales because they've read, you know, the series. And even to the point where it's got to stage that there's the pub, the Fountain Inn in Hawes, which is where Harry and the team go for a jar now and again. They now have a little brass plaque on the wall that says Harry's Corner, because that's where Harry goes to sit. They have my books there as well. And they have loads of people turning up taking selfies outside the Butchers, which is mentioned a lot, Cockett's, which is run by a mate of mine who I went to school with, Dave Cockett, and his sister Louise and his brother Dan. And
does he text you every now and again and he's like, oh, we've had some of your lot in again?
They're off every day. They're outside taking selfies with Cockett's Butchers behind them, and they go in and they speak to them. They speak about the books. Even if they're seen around town, they're having people turn up and say hello. And they'll go into the pub and, you know, speak to Mandy, the woman who owns the place, and take photos in there as well. And we had an event, the first event, 2 weeks ago, the first Grim Up North event. And it was sold out. We had 60 people turn up from all over the country, Norwich, the southwest, Scotland, travelled to a Grim event, which was held at the Fountain, with our own beer, which was Grim in Hawes, brewed by the Wensleydale Brewery, which was
amazing.
Fantastic. And we had, part of that, we had Aubrey, who's the voice artist for the audiobooks. He did a live reading. I did an interview. The highlight for me was the live reading. That was astounding. So he did it cold and he did it live. And it was just like, oh my goodness, this is extraordinary. And we also had like market with with some of the producers. Had the two breweries that I mentioned, the Yorkshire Dales Brewery, and the Wensleydale Brewery, and we also had Cockett's there with cheese and cake, free samples, pie samples, and people could then put an order in and then go pick it up the next day.
That sounds
It's about involving
Absolutely
the local
amazing.
community, the pub, the local producers, and making it bigger than just me talking about my books.
Do you feel like one day Grim Up North could be like a crime thriller festival with more authors and more crime thriller fans and more you've put Wensleydale on the map now, haven't you?
Well, I'm Wensleydale. The Dales is on the map anyway for being lush and gorgeous and lovely and obviously.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, I guess maybe I am helping a bit. We are doing another event next year.
Hmm.
I'm keen that it doesn't grow too quick, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Too big, too quick. The whole point of it is that it's a nice local
Community feel.
community feel to it. But it will grow, and I like the idea that it would shine a light on the Dales and bring sort of literature and food together, that kind of thing. But yeah, it's absolutely going to happen next year. We're already talking about when to do the date.
Hmm.
What will it, that kind of thing. And I've got people who have been messaging from America, from Germany, wherever, saying, "Can you let us know so that we plan our trip to your
Plan our international
country
vacation
so that
around your
we go to the event?" Which is madness. This is an idea that I thought of kind of 3 years ago, thinking, "Will this work? I'll give it."
hmm
With a completely new system, I haven't gone to a publisher, and now here we are. I've sold over 1 million now, which is madness.
which is absolutely
It's
wild.
great.
So
Um,
let's talk about the KSA. This is book 14. Is this right? Book 14
yeah,
in the
Silent Room.
16 book Harry Grimm series so far. Oh, 16 is coming out in November.
November the 30th. I'll be doing a live launch on the 29th.
29th. Okay, great. Um, and so book 14, Silent Ruin, is shortlisted for the Kindle Storyteller Award.
I know.
Is
I keep laughing.
entering the award.
So yeah. I mean,
Was this your first time entering the award?
is it? No, it's the second time, I think. I
Okay.
think it's.
Was the previous
I mean,
entry a Harry Grimm entry?
yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely. So I can't even remember which book it was. It was the one that came out at the same time the previous year. I think I entered two.
Right.
As I did this year, I entered Silent Ruin and Dead Man's Hands. But yeah, I entered it. I had no thought to ever getting through. I think it's like there are thousands and thousands of people enter. It's not like a publisher putting you forward.
Yeah, no, you put yourself forward
So
and you essentially just throw your hat into this ring, right?
yeah, and it's just a ludicrously enormous ring. It's
Hmm.
thousands of people who have thrown hats from all different styles of hats.
All genres,
Big
all
hats,
walks of
small hats,
life.
spotty
Yeah,
hats,
exactly.
furry hats,
Fuzzy hats, pink
white
hats,
teeth
funky,
filled hats.
junky hats.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just hat world. So it's like, how's my hat going to shine out amongst all these hats? But you've got to throw it in anyway and have a laugh and just see what happens. And amazingly, I then got this little email from Baker. I was working in town in a little office that I shared space, and I said, yeah, and I kind of suspected, because it was a bit of random, to get a "can we have a little chat, Dave" thing.
Yeah.
And
So you knew you were either in for the good or you knew that you were in trouble, right?
yeah, and I was pretty much sure I was in, but turns out not.
Turns out
I,
not. Turns out absolutely not in trouble at all.
so there we are. I found out I was shortlisted, and I'm not sure I've stopped grinning since. Yeah, I mean, I'm not expecting to win, but it's a 1 in 5 chance, isn't it? There's five
Hmm.
not bad odds. But to be honest, it's amazing to be shortlisted, to be doing stuff like this. I think I'm not quite sure how it's how Amazon, how the people decide what gets shortlisted.
I
But I
mean,
know it's
who knows how the sausage is made behind those scenes, right?
but it must have something to do with the fact that readers like the book. So that in itself is great. It's amazing for Harry and the team and the Dales to be a part of this shortlisting thing. So yeah, I'm quite
And
like,
so many of our readers are absolutely loving it. We've got a read along live at the moment for Silent Ruin. People love Harry Grimm. People love that kind of soap opera vibe between him and all of his other police men and women. And all of them are going back to book one. It's so exciting to see them all going, oh, now I've read this, I have to go back to the beginning and figure out what I've missed.
that did worry me, because book 14 it's odd to throw yourself into the middle of a series, never mind book 14 of a series. You know, there's
Mm-hmm.
so gone on before, so much character development. But the fact that the characters are strong enough still in book 14 that you can read book 14 as a separate book and go, right, I need to read book 1 and find out how it's got to here,
Yeah.
is quite nice, really. It makes me think, oh, because I spend a lot of my time thinking, I've no idea what I'm doing. Literally, sit down to start a new book, I look at it and go, nope, I don't know how to write a book. I'll text Barry, text Gordy, go, look, you've forgotten, I've no idea what I'm doing. I don't know how to plan. I
Yeah.
can't write. What's character development? What is a story
Who
arc?
knows?
Not a clue. And then you realise a few weeks later you've written half a book. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, there we are. So it kind of confirms that maybe I do know what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've spent years practicing, so maybe I'm okay at it now. I'm okay for people to enjoy the books, throw some decent reviews up, and to keep wanting more. And that's a nice white place to be, really. As I said, I am very, very lucky. Usually,
Mm-hmm.
I never expected for the series to take off like this. Never expected it to take off at all. And yet here we are, book 16, people going to the Dales to visit it because of the reading of the books. There's a Harry Grimmer reader group on Facebook with over 2,000 members going to the Dales, taking photos, getting to know each other. It's just bonkers. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, you've started some kind of cult,
The
haven't
Harry
you?
Grimm cult. The pies. It's the cheese and cake. That was the big thing.
It is. Lure them in with food and dogs,
Yeah,
and it will all be fine.
Because I lived there between the ages of 8 and 13, and then I went back and worked at Marriott Priory over in Swaledale for a year, and I've got mates up there and go up there a lot. I've got this local knowledge, so stuff just appears in the books that I don't even think about, and cheese and cake was one of them.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember when we moved up there, and this whole cheese and cake thing, and that we still have it now. So I put it in passing, and I had this idea that just came out that Harry hated cheese, so he's gone to the day hating cheese to Wensleydale, make Wensleydale cheese hating cheese. And then he's obviously presented not just with cheese, but with cheese and cake. And he's like, and I just put that in just because it's something I know. And then it kind of snowballed into this massive cheese and cake thing really going on in social media. And it was very, very funny. Like the UK Crime Book Club on Facebook was like it was mentioned a lot on there, and it turns up now and again. So yeah, it's just things like that. I think those little details really make a difference to a book,
Yeah.
to a whole, that little detail that you throw in without realizing that then people pick up on.
It's the sprinkling of magic, isn't it? It makes it so that each single book is special. It's not like you're just churning them out. They are special.
No, I'm not churning them out. I'm writing at the speed I want to write. If I was, I'd be doing way more and really, really, really stressed and probably hating what I do. Yeah. Whereas what I'm doing, I'm continuing with a story at the speed I like to continue the story. And it's as fast as I like to go. It's pretty much as fast as I can go. And it's as fast as I want to go. I will have to slow down at some point. Mm-hmm. But so far, fingers crossed, I don't need to, and I don't want to.
I'm touching my wooden desk, just so you know.
Yeah. And as you should.
So Silent Ruin, book 14, we're currently celebrating it right now. Book 15 is also out and available.
Indeed.
So should people need to jump straight into the next installment. And then a book 16 that comes out on 30th of November. Tell us a little bit about that one.
What do I say? Now this one, where do ideas come from, right? Okay, so with the way this works, I write a book and I put a link in the back of the book to the next book.
Mm-hmm.
That next book will not exist at that point because I'll have just finished one. So, but what I will have is a title. Okay. And often I find a title is a good place to start.
So you will publish the title for your next book before you've written it?
Yeah, how mad is that?
That's why, like, again, just as like a comparison to traditional publishing, that's absolutely wild. Do you find that you ever have to retroactively work towards that title?
It's a bit of, I come from it from both sides. So I think about where they are in their lives. So I think, okay, well, the story's going to appear they're going to be in September, October-ish time. So that's harvest. Okay, that'd be, what can it be? Okay, that's Dark Harvest. Okay, and then that's kind of how it happens.
Yeah.
Silent Ruin, it was kind of holiday time, and I was looking at various places around the Dales that work really well with, you know, where you would visit if you went to the Dales. There's Bolton Castle, which is nice, and there's also Midland Castle. My Yorkshire's coming in there. I've gone
I
all
know, I
northern.
can hear it all of a sudden.
Just every now and again, every now and again.
It was Castle that did it. It was
No, it is
Castle.
Bath and
Yeah.
grass. Yeah, so Midland Castle was just perfect, and we were there, and I came up with the title Silent Ruin, which, and then like there was the one before that was the Dark Hours, and that was all about the dark hours of the night, the snow. So yeah, with Dark Harvest, had this great title. It's set during sort of harvest time, but there's loads of floods, and it plays on my love of horror as well. So you've got, I'm trying to give you the setup without not giving too much away. A camper van is found abandoned on a lane outside Hawes. They go and investigate it, and they find that it's owned by a young couple who they then find out a few months ago won one of the biggest lottery amounts ever. They're slightly social media sensations, so they're celebrities as well, and they then have to search for this couple, and it's about the search couple, where they might be or where they might not be, why the van was abandoned there, the clues in the van, something else that they find nearby the van. Plus, then you've got the media circus appearing in Hawes and taking over this town. You've got the journalists. You've got all the fans turning up with their banners. Yeah. So we've got the ones who disappeared, this young couple called Amber and Josh, and all the social media thing, all their fans call them Jamba. They've kind of combined the names Josh and Hannah, as people would.
As people do. They still do that.
They love Jamba, and they've got, like, you know, these banners saying, bring back Jamba, wear a Jamba, all this kind of stuff. So Harry's got all this to deal with. Usually it's just a quiet investigation, him and his team.
Yeah.
But one of the worst storms that's ever hit the Dales, with floods everywhere. He's got a missing celebrity couple. He's got a media circus, and he's got all these fans milling around. So who could it be, and what's happened up there? And it's all about, you know, what darkness lies beneath the moors, that kind of thing. So it's fun. I'm quite excited about it.
I'm excited. No, that sounds really great. I would love to see, like, Harry get really hot under the collar and flustered with everybody in his little town.
He does get quite sort of, right, that's it, I had enough.
So we've obviously got Harry Grimm, who I think at this point is DI. Is that right?
He's the DCI.
DCI. Okay, so in his team, who do you love the most? Like, who's your favourite?
That's very unfair. Because I can't say because I've been writing them for so long. It has come to that stage where they do feel
family. Yeah,
to the point where I will honestly, if I'm going to town to work, I'm pointing, like you can see, look over there. Look. If I drive into town, park up, and I'm walking to this little shared space, I will honestly in my head be talking to Harry, and I'll imagine, like, hunched up with his jacket going, I'm saying, right, Harry, we've got an investigation, time to sort this out, mate. We need to sort this out. And I can hear him going, right, okay, go. It's really weird. And they all are like that. So, you know, you've got Matt, I really love, because he's proper local and really friendly. Nothing seems to knock him. He's never down, very rarely, you know, like that. He's just this positive force. You've got Jim, who's a local lad who was brought up on a farm. His brother was killed in a farming accident when he was a kid, so he's kind of got this farming thing as well in the background. He's a PCSO. PCSOs were kind of key as well in this. I bend the rules a bit with what they actually do, but up in the Dales, they've got basically very few police at all, and the police are very important. So he does that. I've got Liz Coates, who's a PCSO as well. She's big into motorbikes. I've got Jen, who is a detective constable, lives over in Midland, and she's brilliant. She's massively into ultra running, so she's very, very fit and all this kind of stuff. She's great, and she has a pet lizard.
Yes, she does.
Monitor
lizard. Oh, what's his name? No, Stephen. That was it. I was like, Simon. No, it's not Simon. It's Stephen.
He's brilliant. He just turned up randomly. I didn't plan that. I didn't write going, one of my characters must have a monitor lizard. Yes, that'd be funny. It was just like, oh, and there.
Again, it was one of those things that I was reading, and I was like, sorry, hang on. I must have misread that. Does that say that she's got a lizard?
Yeah. It's just this massive lizard. hangs
the
around on it.
maybe or maybe not partner of a character is like, oh well, Stephen doesn't like me, so
Yeah, Jaden.
done.
So yeah, Jaden's a lad who is a police constable. Is really keen, and he was brought in to join the team early on by the DI Gordy who's from the Highlands.
Gordy
Um,
named after your friend
no,
Gordon.
or maybe I don't know. Actually, it's short for Gordanian Haig. But potentially that might have been where it came from. But she's great as well. Quite a strong character. They're all strong characters, and they all get on
Mm-hmm.
well. Is that everyone? Jim, Matt, Liz, Jen, Jaden, Gordy, Harry. That's the team,
Yeah, I
isn't
feel
it? Yeah.
like that's everyone I know.
Plus
Yes.
2 dogs. So we've got Fly, who is a sheepdog, a trained sheepdog,
Yeah.
works on the farm, and Jim often has him around. He turned up randomly. Jim literally walked into the office one day and had a puppy. When I was writing that bit, all I knew was that Jim was going to walk into the office. That was what was happening. And that's what I had in front of me as the plan. And then he walks into the office. I kid you not, he just turned up with a puppy. It was just like, oh, thanks for that. And
It feels like, you know, that game that you used to play when you were a kid where you'd write a part of a story and then turn the page over and the next person has to write the next bit.
yeah,
It feels like Jim walks into the office and he's holding,
yeah,
hold it over, and someone's written a puppy.
write a flipping dog into everything now. Dog's got to grow and learn stuff. So that
But
happened.
as
And then
Claire has rightly put in the comments, Tank.
Tank, yes, indeed. Tank's very cool. And Tank was brilliant. Tank was a short story. It was a little. That was a little Jack Russell. That's a very good memory. From that, I can't remember which book it happens in. Was that in Silent Ruin as well? It is mentioned, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Tank is a little Jack Russell that they meet. But I've actually written that as a short story as well.
Amazing.
Which you subscribe to the newsletter, where you actually find out all that happened around Tank. He's brilliant. And obviously Harry's got a dog as well, Smudge.
Yeah.
Turned up in Bloodsport. And Harry ends up with the dog at the end of that, which again is just like, I'm just making a rod for my own back. So it, Harry now has this little soft lump of nonsense who just always laughs and smiles, and waxes at him. So it's breaking down barriers and sort of smoothing off Harry's rough edges, as is his relationship with Grace, who's met during an investigation. She's a gamekeeper in the area. Her dad was a gamekeeper and was part of an investigation, so they ended up together and whatever. So yeah, Harry's getting more and more involved in local life and stuff and things.
And I feel like there is absolutely no way that all of these lovable bundles of joy have not been influenced by your own lovable bundle of joy, who I was thrilled to meet earlier.
Yes, I did. Yeah, Noodle, you did get to meet Noodle the toy. She's way more popular than I am.
Noodle should have her own Instagram page where she gets to talk about Smudge and Fly and Tank.
Probably, yes. I'm surprised she hasn't yet. I have a job trying to understand my own social media nonsense. So the other Noodle, dear Lord, she appears in every newsletter. People asking about Noodle, and then when we did the event up in Hawes at the Fountain, she obviously came along, and people just obviously knew who she was, and loads of readers
got to meet all of her own fans.
Pub has 2 dogs anyway, 2 Westies who are lovely, and then loads of other people brought dogs. So it's like some kind of, mini crufts at points, like the buffet as well provided by the pub. All these dogs running around and a little pub quiz. It was amazing.
Sounds like a very optimal evening in a pub. Listen, David, I've just caught sight of the time, and I'm so aware that I'm just sucking up your evening. So I have one last question for you. Favorite fictional detectives that sit alongside Harry Grimm? Who else are we loving?
I've always been a Poirot fan, just because.
But are we David Suchet or are we Kenneth Branagh?
I really enjoyed the Kenneth Branagh interpretation. Wasn't sure about the most recent film.
Haunting in Venice.
Yeah, it just made a few jumps that were like, whoa, that was. But I quite enjoy his left field kind of interpretation. I particularly like the facial hair. That I approve of. That is epic. I mean, you cannot cry that mistake.
And there's one scene in oh god, the one on the train, Orient Express, where he's in bed and he's got like a little mustache like case over his mustache to protect it whilst he sleeps.
Yeah. Yeah, David Suchet is fantastic. I loved all the Basil Rathbone Sherlock Holmes films,
How did
or the black and white.
how did you feel about Benedict Cumberbatch as Sherlock Holmes? Yay or nay?
But how many of those have I watched? Again, another great
Yeah,
interpretation. But I just quite like the cozy feel of the black and white film and Basil Rathbone running across the moors with the whole the Hound of the Baskervilles thing.
yeah,
And I just that kind of, and that also the Hound of the Baskervilles one. I think just obviously it's essentially it's very much a horror story,
yeah.
right? And with that atmosphere of the black and white just works so well. Dirk Gently, obviously the Holistic
Mm-hmm.
Agency, fantastic. So there you go. There's a few.
Yeah, there's one or two for people to get excited about whilst we wait for book 16 to come out.
Book 16. It's crazy. And yes, there are more. I've penciled in for next year. I don't have any titles yet, but I think Fly Fishing is going to appear in one for sure. And I've got a spin-off that I want to get sorted, try and launch. Wow, I really.
I mean, if you ever feel like you need to name a dead body Lex, I hear it's a very good name for, side characters.
Well, I did a book. So Barry Hutchison, who's J.D. Kirk, I drowned him in slurry in book 2.
Yes, that I would love that element of being an
He
author, of just like killing off my friends in the sidelines.
had it coming, and he's killed me off before. And in fact, our detectives live in the same world, so they've crossed over. So
Amazing.
it happened with Gordon. He phoned me he sent me a text saying, Dave, Harry's just turned up in my book in a phone call to my detective. All right.
He's like calling up, like, just so you know, I've stolen your intellectual property. Is that all right?
So I checked that this conversation worked from Harry's perspective. So then we had this thing that Harry and DCI Ket know each other. So that happened. And Harry in one of my books actually goes down to see this detective. And then in one of Barry's, my detective Grimm actually helicopters in at the end of the book.
Amazing.
I can't remember who, but it's all part of another investigation that was going on at the time that is mentioned throughout. So we do often talk about doing like a joint book, but we talk about a lot of things that we.
So what you're saying is that we now all need to go and read all of Barry's books as well.
But yeah, J.D. Kirk Smith. So you've got the Logan series, DCI Logan, that's J.D. Kirk, and DCI Ket, which is the Alex Smith ones. Both brilliant, very different to mine. The stuff's all up in Scotland, completely, absolutely astonishing. Very, very funny, and with good spin-off series as well called Hoon, and a new one that's just come out that I can't remember the name of. And Alex's Ket stuff is dark, very dark. He's a cuddly man. He's very cuddly. Like the darkest stuff. It's like, yeah, there we go.
Awesome. Listen, David, thank you so much for all of your anecdotes and your recommendations. Honestly, our readers are so excited about Harry Grimm, and I know that they're going to be jumping in and out of this series for the rest of their reading lives, I'm sure.
Marvelous. Well, I'm not stopping writing it for a while yet, so.
Great news. And I can't wait to hang out with you on November 13th, where we can announce the winners for Amazon's KSA.
Yeah, it's going to be brilliant. It's going to be, well, it'll just be fab fun, won't it? I'm really chuffed to be a part of it. So thank you. It's great.
No, awesome. I am stoked. And I will speak to you super soon.
Nice one. Lovely to speak to you, Lex.
See you later, pal.
Bye.